Okay. Real quick, let's talk about vertebrates and invertebrates. What's an example of a vertebrate?
Frog.
Frog. Cool. I'm great at drawing frogs. Yep, sure am. There's this little froggy guy. He's doing little frog arms. Anyway. Whatever. Okay. Frogs are vertebrates because they have. Nope. Yeah, they have vertebrae, right? They have a skeleton. They have like some kind of skull thing. They got little ribs. They got little leg bones. Okay. This skeleton specifically is called an endoskeleton. Okay. Just like all these other Latin names and terms, you can break this into two parts. Skeleton, you all know what skeleton is. What does endo mean? Inside, yeah. It's an inside skeleton because the skeleton is inside the frog. Do you have an endoskeleton? You have an exoskeleton?
I do.
Crusty dude. All right. No, you have an endoskeleton as well, right? Some organisms do have an exoskeleton, though.
Ants.
No, turtles have an endoskeleton, despite having a shell. But ants have an exoskeleton, yeah. Yeah, ants have an exoskeleton, yeah. Yeah, insects have exoskeletons. There are plenty of organisms that don't have a skeleton at all. What's one of those? A blobfish. Blobfish have a skeleton. Jellyfish do not, though.
Caterpillar.
Yeah, these have no skeleton, right? Yeah. So invertebrates either have an exoskeleton or no skeleton at all. Vertebrates have an endoskeleton.
Can I draw a stick figure for the endoskeleton? Okay.
Well, it's gonna be hard.
Stick figure?
Okay, let's talk. Animals, how do they reproduce usually?
Asexually.
Most animals reproduce asexually.
Bisexually.
Like, do ants reproduce sexually?
No.
Yeah, they have like queens and drones and they fly around and mate. Do frogs reproduce sexually? Yeah, they piggyback on each other. All right. Animals in general reproduce sexually, right? What are the sex cells called? There's a scientific name for them. Sperm and eggs, but those are both. What's the science name for sex cells? Starts with a G.
Genomes.
Starts with a G, ends with amete. Gametes, yeah. These are gametes. Okay, just in case you weren't informed already, the sperm makes its way to the egg. It fertilizes it. It becomes it's a cell. Yep, a fertilized sex cell is called a what? It is called an embryo. An embryo covers all development up until birth after fertilization. But there's a specific name for this single cell, which starts with a Z. A xylem, xylophone, zygote. Yeah, zygote. What's the zygote do? No, it does something. What's it do? It actually, before it eats, in fact, before, like in humans, before it gets implanted into the uterus,
It moves.
it's just traveling down the fallopian tubes, but it's doing something else. What does it do?
Divides.
It divides, yeah. It divides in two. The one cell becomes two.
That's crazy.
What do the two cells become? They become 4. What do the 4 cells become? 8. There we go. Just a big clump. If I were to go in at this point and steal one of these cells away, what would happen to this guy? Actually, wouldn't. It would not die. Would it be like missing a finger or something?
No.
Possibly.
Missing a lot more than a finger.
No. Actually, here's the wild thing. Okay? Shh. If I go in and take one of these early cells, even one of these 2 cells, the developing embryo can usually develop normally. Because, what?
Isn't that how like twins come about? Is because of the
Yep.
dividing
Yep. If these cells divide and then get separated, they just become their own organism. Yep. These cells, yeah, like twins. These cells, at this point, guys, come on. They don't have any particular role. They haven't been differentiated, right? They're just a group of cells. From here on out, though, they are starting to get roles. And these cells organize themselves not in just this mass of cells, but they organize themselves into a sphere. I can't draw in 3 dimensions very well, so I did a 2-dimensional version so it looks like a circle. But keep in mind, this is a whole sphere. It's like a little planet crust ball of cells. It's really wild. It's hollow on the inside. It is called a blastula. Are these the things that move?
Yeah, like they have like something that like moves them across or something. I saw it.
Yeah, these are moving. Usually it's around a little after the blastula forms that it implants into the uterine wall, and then it continues to grow. Okay, so after the blastula forms, the next thing that needs to form is the,
Stomach.
Child.
yes, the stomach, the gastrointestinal tract. We are all just fancy tubes. We're just like worms. There's an in hole and an out hole. Everything else is just fun, filler. Yeah, so we need to make the in hole and the out hole. You guys know which hole forms first in humans? It's the in, or it's the out hole, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll draw it on the bottom.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Your out hole forms first. It's just this little fold, and then these cells grow up all the way until they get to the top. The term for these cells, or this section here, is the gastrula. Write it down. Gastrula.
What time did we get on?
On that one. Or 58. You can remember this because of gast. Anytime you see gast, you can think of like the gut, right? The gastrointestinal tract.
And then it like shrinks again, and then like
I don't know. Why is there 2 different colors?
You'll see.
No, it's 3.
Okay, so the gastrula grows up and up and up until it reaches the top. And remember, this is a sphere, so it forms a tube through the center. This is like a cross section through the middle, so this isn't two like separate organisms. It's more like a donut, right? Or like a pipe. Becomes the gastrointestinal tract. There's 3 types of cells growing now, and these become our first 3 major types of tissue. The cells on the outside. Nope. These are called the ectoderm. The ones on the inside become the,
Exo.
not exo,
Endo.
Endoderm. Yep, endo meaning inside, ecto meaning outside, yeah. And then finally, we got these red ones. They're called the mesoderm. Yeah, so these cells go on to make other tissues, so do the endoderm and the ectoderm. What type of tissue does the ectoderm make, do you think?
Skin.
Skin, yep. And strangely enough, it actually makes your neurons,
That's crazy.
including your neurons in your brain and your spinal cord. Come from ectoderm tissue. Endoderm becomes what?
Inside. Like,
Yeah, your intestines, your stomach, your esophagus, your gut, basically. I'm just gonna put gut there, or at least the lining of your gut. Most everything else comes from the mesoderm. So things like your heart,
So like muscles.
lungs, muscles. Yep. That comes from mesoderm.
What about your brain?
Ectoderm. They're nerves. Yeah, we'll go into more detail when we get to like human development and embryology. But now we'll lead you up to at least this point.
I have a question, Mr.
Yep.
If the brain is a muscle,
It's not a muscle. I mean, people say that, but it's just an expression.
see, I told you. Not right for you.
All right, we got one more slide. We'll little blue. We're gonna draw a tree of all the animals out there.
That's a big tree.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big tree. Well, not all the animals. In fact, we're gonna skip most of the phylums, but we'll do the heavy hitters. We'll do the big phylum.
I don't know. Peter does
I don't know if you go up so high.
Yeah. Is he a good coach?
Yeah.
He used to coach who you were like, this coach.
All right, guys, shh. Draw this. Let's go.
I have it.
Good. Okay, our first big distinction here is between organisms with tissues
And the ones with Kleenex.
and ones with no tissues. At least no true tissue. They don't have like epithelial tissue or anything like that. Does anyone know what type of organisms have no tissue? I'll give you a hint. They're like the simplest animals out there. People didn't even think they were animals because they can't even move.
Bacteria. Fungi.
Okay, why are you saying plants and mushrooms? We're talking about animals here.
Possum.
Can you think of any worms that or animals that don't move? I'll give you a hint. They live in the ocean.
Oh, clams and mussels.
No, they still move. They'll still like open up and like filter feed and stuff.
Starfish. Sponge. No,
Starfish.
Somebody said
Little
it.
spiky furry thing.
It's a sponge.
A sponge.
A sponge?
Wait, so you're telling me the thing
A
I
s-
use to clean my dishes is living?
So modern sponges are made out of plastic. But back in the day, sponges came from the ocean. And in fact, you can still get ocean sponges. If we lived by the sea, half of you would have one sitting in your bathroom.
I'm pretty sure I have one.
Yeah, you might have a natural sponge.
Floating.
How are sponges born?
What?
Be really gentle with it.
Is there Marcotte Howard's? How are they produced?
How are they what?
How are they made? Like, how did the sponge?
Like the sponge at the store?
No, like,
The sponge at the store is made out of plastic, right? That one, they just grow. That's the skeleton left over. So they have like a glass skeleton.
but it's an that's glass.
Yeah, it's glass.
Is it dead?
It's like fiberglass, right?
Mr. Markov, does that mean there's a type of animal that just grows? Because you said it had to be an animal.
Yeah, so yeah, sponges are weird because you can like put them in a blender and chop them up, and any cells that aren't killed, you can like. In fact, that's how they grow sponges. A lot of places by the ocean, especially like Mediterranean and stuff, they'll like grow sponges like as aquaculture, and they'll like take a sponge, chop it into little tiny bits, like bolt it to the ocean floor, and then like a month or two later, it's grown up really big, and then they can harvest it and sell it to tourists. That sort of thing. Anyway, sponges are kind of cool. Our next division. I actually got two here. And this one has to do with symmetry. Remember in geometry class, like you talked about symmetry? And you either have like line symmetry, which in biology we call bilateral.
And that's why you're failing.
Bilateral symmetry, which means do humans have bilateral symmetry?
No.
Do we have a left half and a right half?
Oh, yes.
Are they more or less mirror images of each other? Yes.
Most of the time.
Okay, as opposed to the other option, which is a rotational symmetry, or in the biology world, they call it radial symmetry. I abbreviated it SYM. But radial symmetry. So what's an organism with radial symmetry?
Yeah.
Starfish do, but interestingly enough, it's actually a second evolution of radial symmetry, and their larvae have bilateral symmetry. Weirdly enough. We drew one on the other page.
A clam.
A frog.
Frog. A jellyfish.
Yeah, jellyfish.
When you throw a fish like this, and now it's a sideways jellyfish. That isn't symmetrical.
Cut it down this way.
No.
Now, if you look at it from above, jellyfish have radial symmetry.
But you
right?
line it inside.
I picked up a jellyfish by the flat part on the top.
Yeah, the top part won't sting you. Yeah,
Yeah.
as we all learn in Finding Nemo. Does anyone know the scientific name for jellyfish? It's kind of hard. It's tricky.
Jellyfish.
Dylan, phone away. Okay, let's take some notes, please. This one's tricky because it has a silent letter at the front. The name is Cnidarian, but it starts with a C.
That's not funny.
Cnidaria. Cnidaria. Guys, shh. It's way too chatty. Robert, you too. Okay. The other feature of organisms with bilateral symmetry, or animals, is they have a head. Cephalization just refers to the evolution of a head end of the body, right? We have a head end of the body and a tail end of the body. Cephala just means head. Okay, I'm going to throw out a few more terms. We're not going to define them all today. I'll review them later at some point, just so we're all on top of things. But our next group are the acoelemates. A-C-O-E-L-O-M. They have an acoelom. Yep.
What's the last two letters?
O-M. O is in oranges, M is in mother.
Oh, as in
The acoelemates, weird organisms called platyhelminths.
platypus. One of them right there. I've been right most of the time.
Not big.
The platyhelminths, these guys are like flatworms. Look, flatworms. They look kind of like this. They're little flatworms. Platyhelminths. These are the guys that, like, if you cut them in half, they'll like regenerate. They have like cool regeneration properties, the flatworms.
How does that work?
Just their cells, they're really simple bodies, and so as long as they have some of the all three tissue types, they can just regrow it. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Okay, couple other groups. This branch here, these are going to be the columnates. They'll have a column. The column refers to the body cavity. So like, hey, shh, shh, shh. If you were to like cut my abdomen open and my like guts would spill out, my intestines, what's in between one intestine and the other intestine? No, it's not air. It's called serous fluid. It's just like a liquid fluid. It's like a lubricant fluid that can they can wiggle by each other, right? It's not solid tissue, cell, all the way between them, right? That's the column. It's a body cavity. And we have multiple cavities as humans. These guys don't have any cavities, and then these guys do have cavities, but they're kind of weird, so we call them pseudocolumnates. What does pseudo mean again? What does pseudo mean?
Clone.
Not a clone or a copy. Fake, yes. Pseudo means fake. So these are pseudo columnates. There's two groups. Whoops, not M. The Nematoda and Rotifera. What are nematodes?
Toads.
No. No. Yeah, it's a worm. These are roundworms. Some of them are parasitic, actually. My pathophysiology class, we're learning about parasitic nematodes, and there's some horrific ones out there. Like ones that you get in through your foot, and then they like crawl up through your body and then infect your eyes, and you go blind. Yeah. There's some that like hang out in your brain. Yeah, there's some terrible ones. Anyway, rotifers. Does anyone know what rotifers are? Somebody caught one actually in my little water tank the other day.
It's a snail.
No, they're these little organisms. They hang on to things with their little tail here. And then they have these like little wheelie sections that allow them to they look like they're constantly spinning, but really they're just cilia. And then they like brush water into their bodies. They have a little mouth right here, and they have a little gut. Anyway, they're cool little organisms. Sometimes they're free swimming too. Yeah.
Are they the ones that get in the Greenland shark's eyes? Are they the parasite that gets in them?
I haven't heard of that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Most of these are parasitic, yeah.
Well, there's like one parasite or whatever that gets in either and then they eat the eyes.
The Greenland shark, that's rough.
And they can't do anything.
Yeah, they're all just blind and swimming around that way. All right. Guys, hey, 2 more terms. 2 more terms, Jackson. Help me out. 2 terms. Just 2 more. This group here, these are called proteosomes. And these guys are the deuterosomes. This includes humans or chordates, chordata. The proteosomes includes mollusca, annelida, and arthropoda. What are mollusks? What's an example? Snail, perfect, yep.
Clams, mussels.
What's an annelid? Does anyone know?
Slug.
No, but they're segmented worms. So not only earthworms are annelids, but also things like leeches, tapeworms. Arthropods, what's an example? Sit. What's an example of an arthropod? You got a minute. Sit. Take some notes.
Yeah.
Not slugs. Arthropods have segments. Spiders, yeah. Spider's a good one. Crabs, like crustaceans, those are all arthropods. Chordata is like humans. Oh, we never got to echinoderms.
We're gonna continue this anyway, right?
No. We're just gonna go if you're done, yeah.
I'm not even here.
Well, come here. I got some bread for you.